Over to you, Mr. Robbie Hills.
What I'm going to talk to you about today is probably, it's a weird title, what is programmatic buying? So I'm going to try and attempt to explain that for you. Just a quick little bit about 1 second about me. I mean, I look after all of Google's media technology solutions across India, China, and Southeast Asia. The rich media piece is sort of my secondary job, if you can have such a thing. So I look after all of the advertising technology solutions that Google runs across here, Southeast Asia, and China. Okay, so I thought first what we might do is just a little bit of a history lesson, if you like, and talk about the last decade of online media buying. When I first got into buying media, it was back in the 90s. I actually worked in magazines, but it was pretty easy. If you're an agency or a publisher, you had a one-to-one conversation. You rang up and you booked an ad. It was all pretty simple. In digital, what happened is that there was a lot of portals around, and they all generated huge amounts of inventory, a lot of large publishers, and they couldn't sell it all. So what happened is the ad networks came into the breach and started aggregating all of that inventory and started selling it all. It happened here in India, and it still is to this day. What happened then is there was all of these ad networks around the world, in most countries, and what happened is, well, how do we manage that process of selling all of those display advertising impressions that we're generating? So what happened is that a term called an ad exchange or an ad exchange business emerged, and this has only happened in the last couple of years, really. So the ad exchanges have come across have been launched around the world, and we're seeing their rise today. And I'm going to talk a little bit about ad exchanges and how you, as a marketer or you, as an agency, can start accessing that inventory that's sitting in an ad exchange. Now, ad exchanges have emerged around the world, and they've emerged here locally in Asia Pacific as well. There's no local pure Indian ad exchanges yet. I imagine there will be a couple potentially in the next year or so, a couple of years, we'll see. They've certainly emerged in China, and they've certainly emerged in Japan of late. DSPs. Quick show of hands, anyone know what a DSP is? No? Demand-side platform. So in the way to access this inventory that all these exchanges have come up, and when I'm talking about exchanges, people like Google, we've launched an exchange, Yahoo's launched an exchange, Microsoft's launched an exchange, Facebook's just launched one in the last month. So a lot of the big digital global publishers have launched ad exchanges. There's companies that are out there that are servicing the online publishing industry as well. So what the DSPs are doing is it's a way of accessing the inventory on the exchanges. And we're going to talk a little bit about, as an agency, what a demand-side platform means for you and how that means you can start accessing this inventory in a way that you've never been able to before. I should say I'm going to try and keep this to 20 minutes if I can, and leave a bit of time for questions at the moment. I know we're on short on time, but I'll try and leave some time for questions for everyone. I think in the end, nothing really changes. Whether the advance of technology allows us to buy advertising better, we've heard a lot about this today already. In the end, it's pretty clear. We want to find the right audience, and we want to deliver the right ad. That's the goal of any marketer. How can I find my audience, and how can I put a message in front of them that's going to convert the best? It's pretty simple. So if we look at what's happened over the last period of time in digital, there's been a big shift in the way that we buy online media. In the main, and still a lot to this day, websites are used as a proxy for audience. So this is Yahoo India. If I'm Procter & Gamble and I'm interested in targeting women 25 to 54, we saw a funny video that Microsoft launched a while back earlier today. I'm going to go into a piece of content where I think women 25 to 54 are going to be looking at. So it might be in the lifestyle section of Yahoo India. Whereas, what we're really wanting to do is try and find, that 30-year-old, mum who happens to live in, Parel, Mumbai, just down the road, who's interested in searching for a certain amount of coupons. So if we can make that connection a lot more precise with your audience, it's going to be a lot better than having this sort of vagaries of context. So, ad exchanges. It's really, we saw NASDAQ there, but it's about bringing buyers and sellers together. We sometimes use the analogy of a stock market. But really, it's pretty simple. You have buyers on one side and sellers on the other. And from an ad exchange perspective, there's really, on the buy side, if you like, there's agencies or trading desks. There's ad networks like Comly, Inity, etc. There's trading desks. We're going to talk a little bit about trading desks in a moment, because some of the large multinational agencies are setting up particular trading desks for buying online and using some of these tools. On the other side, we have publishers. So publishers supplying their inventory into these exchanges and making it available. So you've got people like Times of India, Yahoo India, ourselves, Google, putting all of their inventory into an exchange and making it available. Again, we're trying to bring some efficiency into the media buying process that hasn't been there. Before I came to Google, I worked at Group M, which is one of the larger media buying shops around the world. And one of the things that when we were running the business that really sort of, it's hard to manage the business, is that the inefficiency that sits within those agencies is pretty huge. A lot of manual work, a lot of people manipulating spreadsheets, writing reports, trying to target, finding the right segments to target. And when we speak to agencies, we're trying to bring in some efficiency into their business. So how can we actually start making giving their teams back more time to do things that are going to add more value to their clients' work? And that's something that we at Google try to do, and not just us, our colleagues in the industry as well. So how can we make it more efficient for agencies, trading desks, ad networks, and ultimately advertisers to buy their media online? That's what an ad exchange helps facilitate. So, what the hell is a demand-side platform? Essentially, it is a technology platform that allows trading desks, agencies, and advertisers to buy online media across multiple ad exchanges using real-time bidding. I'm going to talk a little bit about what real-time bidding is in a moment. I've tried deliberately not to get too geeky and techy, which I have a tendency to do sometimes. So really, it's a tool. It's a tool that sits within an agency, it sits within a trading desk, and allows those agencies to buy online media at scale. That's what we're talking about. We're really talking about buying online media at scale. So you have this tool sitting in the trading desk and allows you to buy across multiple ad exchanges. And to give you a bit of an idea, the DSP or the demand-side platform is generally plugged into multiple ad exchanges. You can see some of them down the bottom there. Yahoo, Right Media. These are the sort of the global big 8, if you like. There's Right Media, DoubleClick's Ad Exchange, Microsoft's Ad ECN, and there's other ones called Pubmatic, Rubicon, OpenX, Pubmatic, etc. All of these guys here are in India today. So all of these ad exchanges are operating, have inventory that's appearing in India. To give you an idea, I don't know about some of the others I don't want to talk about, but for us, we're seeing hundreds of millions of ads a day in India coming through our exchange. We've got people buying that inventory now here in India. So this is something that's really just only emerged in India in the last 6 months. I've been watching it for a little while, and it sort of surprised us, to be honest, when we looked at it, how quickly it's growing, and it's growing every day. There's more and more inventory coming into the exchange here. So the demand-side platform, provides an interface, provides a UI, a user interface for you to actually sit there and start trading this media across all of these exchanges. One of the great things about demand-side platforms is its use of data. I've been working in America in a company too long. I keep saying data. It's quite annoying. The use of data. When we're looking at a demand-side platform, there's two lots of data that we sort of tend to use. The first is what we call first-party data. So that is data that you as a company have built up over time through your advertising, through using your ad serving, building up huge sort of pools of cookies, if you like, or cookie lists about what your users have done, what ads they've seen, what they've converted, so making some decisions about what sort of people they are. There's also third-party data. And that third-party data is generally, we've heard, I think Jody mentioned them before, it's the rise of the sort of large global DMPs, or data management platform providers. And what they're doing is actually building up huge amounts of data around what people are doing online. And they're getting from all sorts of different sources. You know, they're getting it from advertising they're buying from, data they're buying from publishers. Some of these publishers are selling this data. They're getting it from credit card companies, a whole range of different other providers. And they're bringing it all together, running their own sort of algorithms across it and washing it and scrubbing it, and then selling it to the demand-side platforms. So some of these big ones are Bluekai, Exalate, IOTA. These guys are all providing huge amounts of data to the demand-side platforms to help the trading desks buy media more efficiently. So we're using a combination of first-party data and third-party data to actually come together and help make our buying decision more efficient. So you often hear people talk about RTB and real-time bidding. Without going down too much into the details, which I'm just looking at the screen. Can you actually see that? It's a bit small. What actually is RTB? So whereas before, we buy media display impressions on a cost per thousand basis, CPM, CPT. In real-time bidding, that's not how we do it. We're actually after that one single impression. We're actually buying a single impression, one person, one impression, one page view. And we can actually target right down to that single impression and make a bid, if you like, in an auction about what we think that impression is worth. So when the ad exchange makes available the impression, the DSP, if you like, is looking at that single impression and then saying, well, should I bid on this? What's that single impression worth to me? So, we're looking at a variety. We've got a lot of information plugged into the demand-side platform, what sort of person that might be, where they've come from, what they are, what time is it. And we really have got like milliseconds to make a decision on whether that impression is valuable for us. Is that something that we want to buy in the auction? And, we can bid for it or we don't have to bid for it. So the demand-side platform is literally making these decisions on the fly as we go, hence the term real-time bidding. So, if you win the bid, if you win the auction, then your ad is served. And we're seeing huge amounts of volume now coming through from demand-side platforms around the region. And all this is happening in less than 50 milliseconds. So you've got ad exchanges and demand-side platforms really starting to change the way that we buy media. And there's huge shifts that are going on here in India and around the region. These are global numbers. Let me get back up on the step here. You can see them there. 88% of media buyers are planning to use real-time bidding this year. The amount of spend that we're seeing is 2x. These are global numbers. In this part of the world, we're seeing much higher numbers than that because we're coming off a lower base. In India alone, we've seen our numbers grow, probably 40, 50 times in the last 6 months, just on purely people buying media in this way. So, with all of this change and all this advancement, the way that we know media buying today is changing. The whole ecosystem is changing. My prediction is, and I don't know, this is the Robbie Hills prediction. Don't hold me to it. It's not really a Google one. Is that I think by the end of next year, so the end of 2013, in Asia Pacific, close to about 40% of all online performance media is going to be bought programmatically. It's going to be bought through a DSP. It's going to be bought through an exchange. So any performance media that is being bought, display media, is going to happen through this type of manner, through a DSP, through an exchange. It's moving that fast. Japan's moving faster. Japan is nearly already there. And it is a huge shift. So what does the ecosystem look like? Well, on one side, we've talked about some of the exchanges that are out there and the yield managers of the publishers. We've talked about some of the data providers, the DMPs that are out there. And in Asia and in India, these guys have done these global guys have done a pretty ordinary job in providing some third-party data for us. We're pushing them very hard to start releasing and start working harder in both the Indian market and generally in Asia. There's a number of companies that are selling demand-side platform solutions. We're one of them. Brand Screen, Tube Mogul's a video-specific one. MediaMath's a global one. There's good local players. We have the Comly guys have have built a DSP product and have released that now. We're seeing people like Vizuri, great company out of Bangalore, who is really who's a retargeting company. Is competing very well regionally with their solution. Our solution is called Invite Media. And the trading desks themselves, these are the trading desks. So these are the ad agency trading desks. So, when you think of, agencies, you think of Mindshare, you think of OMD, some of the, Cara, you think of these big sort of global trading agencies. Well, all of them have set up trading desks to some certain extent. You see some of them there. Amnet's Aegis is one. Acuen is Omnicom's one. Xaxis is WPP or Group M. Viveki is Publicis. All of these guys are here now in India, some shape or form. Some of them are, have got people on the ground. Some of them are just a PowerPoint slide. All of them are coming here in some shape or form, and some of them are already trading here. What I think will happen in India, probably certainly in the next 12 months, is we're likely to see the larger agencies, maybe some of the big local ones, whether it's someone like Interactive Avenues and others, actually running trading desks themselves in their own markets. Don't want to speak on their behalf, but I think that's what's going to happen. And we're seeing that in some of the other Asian countries in the region as well. So in Singapore, we're actually starting to see some of the operating companies. I live in Singapore. We're starting to see some of the operating companies, actually the agencies, starting to use a DSP as well. One of the advantages of a DSP, doesn't matter where you're located, you can have a trading desk set up here in Bangalore or Mumbai or Delhi, and you can buy media outside of your market. So, for example, you might be a customer sitting, an advertiser sitting here, and a big part of your targeting is looking for NRIs. So how can I find those NRIs in other parts of the world? Sometimes they're hard to find, hard to target. Well, we know that within using a DSP, by using that technology, you can find all of those guys and girls outside of India who are interested in Indian-based products very easily, at scale, and at the price that you're wanting to pay for them. So what I'm going to sort of talk through now is just a couple of points about what are some of the things you want to think about when you're moving into this direction. Is that we still see this is very new for many advertisers and many agencies at the moment. We're still seeing many agencies using multiple vendors, multiple platforms, multiple networks to buy into the exchange space. Our view is that in the end, and I think it's pretty much the general view, that it's really not going to give you the scale that you need, and you're going to make some poor buying decisions. So if you're unable to consolidate your buying decision, you're not going to have a lot of control. And if you can't do control, you don't have control, you can't do things like universal frequency capping. If you're buying across multiple vendors, am I going to really hit the same person at the same time? You don't want to do that. So I think that probably one of the best ways of doing it is making sure that you use one solution. And you're going to start making sure that you don't have a lot of duplication in the buy that you're doing. It's about controlling your data. We heard it a little bit earlier this morning. Not having control over your data is tantamount to just sort of throwing your business away. Being able to control your data, being able to manage it, most importantly, being able to use it in effecting a proper, efficient media buy is going to be very key to how you move forward with your business. Obviously, having a strong technology partner is key. Some of the things that you want to think about when you're talking to your potential DSP partner is things like making sure the workflow's easy to manage. Making sure that it has real-time bidding capabilities. There's a lot of DSPs out there who say they've got RTB abilities, but they don't. Making sure the targeting's right, making sure the data's inputting right, making sure there's transparency built into the system. Through our DSP Invite, we're seeing about 35 billion impressions a day, and it's growing every day. that's a huge amount of liquid available inventory that you can actually start buying your message against. And it's literally growing every day. So I'm going to scoot through this, so I can try and leave a couple of minutes for questions at the end. What's important? Scale. When you think about the volume that we're talking about here in India, you want to make sure that your technology provider is not going to fall down purely because they don't have enough servers or enough infrastructure built into the system. You want to make sure that it's easy to move your data in and out of your DSP. Again, without it, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. I think we talked about audience, but also context is obviously important as well. Make sure that your DSP can go down to a URL level, a domain name level. You can actually see what needs to happen and where your ad's appearing. Make sure there's transparency in the whole process. You know what you're paying for. This is what we're trying to do. In a lot of the world of ad networks, it can get a little bit murky about actually what you're paying for. In a DSP, you can see what you're paying. So make sure that transparency is built into the system that you're looking at. Make sure that the DSP can able to buy cross-platform. Make sure that it can buy mobile. And we heard that Mahesh before talk about the number of people that are going to be on mobiles here in India. So if you're going to be using a DSP, make sure that it is mobile capable. Pretty clear cut. That's the problem. Make sure they're plugged into all of the major exchanges. You've got the amount of inventory, most amount of inventory possible to set up your campaign. And of course, if you're looking to target, NRIs or people from overseas, make sure that you have the capabilities of targeting those folks overseas. Make sure we've got, you can do certain strategies when you're bidding on a DSP. So, make sure that when you're looking at your DSP solution, that it can do all sorts of, different optimization strategies, different bidding strategies. Whether it's run of exchange at the very broad level, whether it's, adding contextual targeting, whether it's using the third-party data that we talked about, whether it's looking at, lookalike segments, which I'm not going to get into, but it's basically looking at, your third-party data and your first-party data and deduplicating them. So make sure that any DSP you choose has the ability to do all of these things. And I think the key point, I think it was the last slide, is invest in your own platform. Keep your data and learnings in house. I think you probably hear this is a recurring theme in the next couple of days. Control your own data, be the masters of your own destiny. Without it, it's going to be hard to make those buying decisions that you want to do. So that's just like literally a 30-minute sneak peek into the world of DSPs. Doesn't really give it justice. Myself and my team are happy to come and chat to you guys at any stage about what it means and how we can help. There's my contact details there. I don't know if you've got time for one or two questions on it. Come and grab me afterwards. Yep. Cool. All right. Thank you.